You're dialed in for a really crucial look at a deep dive into something that, well, it really moves the needle in the tech world. We're talking about the Q2 FY2025 earnings report from Applied Materials. That report lands this Thursday, May 16th, right after the market closes. And look, this isn't just about their bottom line. It's a key indicator for the whole semiconductor industry and the powerful forces driving it.
Absolutely. Applied Materials is so central, really central to that whole semiconductor equipment ecosystem. Their performance gives us, well, a vital inside look at the health and maybe the future direction of major players like ASML, Lam Research, KLA Corp, you name it. Think of them as like the essential tool providers for this whole chip manufacturing revolution that's happening.
Exactly. So our goal today is pretty focused. We've analyzed the recent earnings previews, the reports on Applied Materials, really to bring you the core info you need. We're pinpointing what you should watch for in this report and crucially explaining why it actually matters to you. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, and I think to really understand where Applied Materials might be heading, it's probably helpful to first take a quick look back, just, at their recent performance. In their last quarter, Q1 of fiscal year 2025, so that's the 3 months ending back in January, they actually delivered some pretty strong numbers.
They really did. They reported revenue of, what was it, $7.17 billion, which is a healthy 7% increase compared to the same quarter last year. And their non-GAAP earnings per share, that came in at $2.38. That was up a significant 12% year over year. And importantly, both of those numbers were actually better than what analysts were expecting.
Yeah, they beat expectations. And we also saw a positive trend in their profitability. The non-GAAP gross margin, it improved to 48.9%. That's a key metric, right? It reflects how efficiently they're making and selling their equipment.
So that gives us some good context. Now, obviously, everyone's attention is going to be on this upcoming report on the 16th. What are the expectations for this current quarter, Q2 FY 2025, and what guidance has Applied Materials themselves actually put out there?
Okay, so Applied Materials has indicated they expect revenue to land somewhere in the range of $6.7 billion to $7.5 billion for Q2. And they're also forecasting adjusted earnings per share, the non-GAAP number, to be between $2.12 and $2.48.
Right. Now, it's interesting to see how those figures stack up against what the analysts are predicting. Currently, the consensus among analysts is for earnings of around $2.30 per share on revenue of approximately $7.12 billion.
Yeah, and what's quite telling there, I think, is that these analyst expectations are actually slightly below the very strong results Applied Materials just reported for Q1. So, it suggests maybe a certain level of caution is prevailing in the market as we look ahead.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit then.
Sure.
What are the major factors kind of influencing these expectations, both, from the company and from the analysts watching them?
Well, a primary driver, and potentially a very significant one, is just the robust demand we're seeing tied to artificial intelligence. AI Applied Materials is, a critical supplier of equipment, especially in areas like advanced packaging and these processes called etch and deposition. These are just fundamental, really, to making the complex high-performance chips needed for AI stuff.
That makes total sense. So if Applied Materials comes out and signals, hey, we're seeing a surge in orders for this kind of specialized equipment, from the companies building out the AI infrastructure, like the ones supplying chips to NVIDIA, AMD, those guys, that would be a really positive signal, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Their strength in advanced packaging, lithography, materials depositions, these are crucial for the really intricate designs of AI accelerators. So yeah, any significant uptick in orders here, it directly reflects the pace at which the big chip manufacturers are scaling up production for these cutting edge parts.
Okay. But it's not all just positive tailwinds, right? We also need to consider the potential challenges. You mentioned a cyclical slowdown in some areas.
Yes, exactly. There's still this kind of ongoing cyclical downturn affecting spending, particularly in the memory and foundry segments. These are parts of the chip world that have seen some, softening in demand, and that can definitely impact the overall growth for equipment suppliers like AMAT.
Got it. And then there's the ever-present elephant in the room, geopolitics. Specifically the U.S.-China tech restrictions. This just feels like a really unpredictable piece.
It's a very significant consideration, no doubt. In Q1, a substantial chunk, 31% of Applied Materials' total revenue actually came from China. Now, while that's down from the 45% we saw the year before, it's still a really big slice of their business. And the U.S. restrictions, while they have the potential to negatively impact their ability to export certain advanced tech, certain tools, especially related to logic and memory development, into that key market.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge piece of the puzzle. A lot of potential variables there. You also flagged the importance of keeping a close eye on their profit margins. We noted a slight difference maybe in the reported gross margin from last quarter. I think one source said 46.3%, another mentioned a 48.9% non-GAAP.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's worth clarifying. Sometimes you see GAAP versus non-GAAP figures, but regardless of the precise figure, the trend in their gross margins is definitely something investors will be watching very closely. They'll be looking for insights into, Applied Materials, factory utilization rates, how well they're managing costs, the direction of their order backlog. These are all really important signals about their future profitability and their pricing power in the market.
Okay. So stepping back for a second, it really sounds like this Applied Materials earnings report is, well, it's more than just news about one company. It feels like it offers a really valuable perspective on the broader semiconductor equipment industry, sort of as a whole.
Precisely. Yeah, Applied Materials hold such a prominent position in that whole supply chain that their results, and especially the commentary they provide, often act as an indicator for the entire sector. A strong performance from them could absolutely lift the overall sentiment for their competitors, too. You often see that ripple effect.
Okay, so just to kind of summarize where we are, this upcoming earnings report feels like a really key moment, doesn't it? We're trying to understand the extent of the semiconductor industry's recovery from that recent downturn, and we're also trying to gauge just how significantly this demand created by the AI boom is actually translating into real profitable business for these critical equipment suppliers.
That's really the core question we're looking to get some clarity on, I think. Is all this massive excitement around AI actually resulting in substantial revenue-generating orders? And crucially, orders with healthy profit margins. For the companies that provide the essential tools needed to make these advanced chips, this earnings report should give us at least an initial indication.
All right, so as we bring this deep dive into Applied Materials' upcoming earnings toward a close, let's just quickly recap the key areas you should really be focusing on when that report drops on Thursday. First, obviously, are their top and bottom lines. Revenue and earnings per share. How do they compare both to their own forecasts and to those consensus estimates from the analysts?
Yeah. Second, pay really close attention to any details, any insights they share regarding the demand they're seeing specifically tied to AI. Are those order numbers actually increasing? What's their outlook for that specific segment of their business? That's key.
Thirdly, definitely look for any discussion about the impact of the ongoing geopolitical situation, particularly their revenue exposure to China and how those U.S.-China tech restrictions might be affecting their operations, their future prospects.
And finally, keep an eye on those gross profit margins. Any notable changes there, plus their comments on things like production capacity, cost management, and the trends in their order backlog. All of that will provide really valuable clues about their financial health and their future potential.
So here's maybe a final thought for you to mull over. Considering this really complex interplay, right? You've got surging demand for AI tech, you've got lingering effects from the cyclical downturn elsewhere, and then this unpredictable nature of international trade. What will Applied Materials earnings report ultimately reveal about the current state and maybe the near-term future of the entire semiconductor industry? And maybe even more broadly, how might that then ripple through and affect the wider tech landscape that you're following? It really is all interconnected. And this earnings call could provide a really crucial piece of that puzzle.